Welcome back to Sawtooth Tactical, Gun Goals 2024. First of all, I want to know what you guys' gun goals are in the next year. And what I mean by that is not necessarily just which new guns you might want to get, but what do you want to do about your ammo stockpile, about training, about upgrading your current guns, things like that, because this year, I've got some real firearms goals that I would like to accomplish that are different than I've had in years past where I just wanted to get a bunch of new guns. And so I'm going to tell you what my firearm goals are for 2024, but I would love to hear what yours are as well. So make sure you're subscribed. And as we go through this video, think about what I'm talking about and let me know in the comments what your goals are. So the first and most obvious one is new guns. And most years, that's what I'm thinking of. Which new guns do I want to get this year? Last year, I got a few. Probably the biggest one, not biggest in size, well, it still was the biggest in size, but definitely the most expensive one that took the most time and thought into it was this build right here. It was my dream rifle build, and I absolutely love that rifle. But I've also gotten to a point now where most of the use cases that you would need firearms for, I have filled for the most part. Now, I don't really have a true long-range gun. And honestly, I don't have a shotgun. But for some reason, shotguns just don't excite me as much as some of these other ones. I don't hunt birds, and I haven't in years. And as far as home defense goes, I think there are much, much better options. Things like 300 Blackout in a short platform, I think are much more effective for home defense than a 12 gauge shotgun is. And you can argue with me down in the comments if you'd like. Plenty of people do. I don't know about you guys, but I've had my bank account hacked 3 times just in the last year. I get spam calls all the time. I've had to get new debit cards because it's been such a problem. And that's why I am partnering with Aura. I'm pretty careful about not putting my information out there. But I Googled my email address and there was still tons of stuff about me. Luckily, a lot of it was Sawtooth Tactical. Data brokers literally have all of your information, your full name, your email, your home address, and those of your family, and they sell them to scammers, spammers, and anyone else who might want to target you. That's why I'm using Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura shows me which data brokers are using my information and selling it, and automatically submits opt-out requests on my behalf. Check out how many data brokers Aura found that were selling my information. Cleaning up my information helps reduce the amount of spam phone calls and stuff like that I get, and it also protects me from hackers that could use this information to access my social media, bank accounts, or other sensitive information. And Aura does so much more to protect me and my family from threats that I can't even see. Aura is very easy to set up. I don't have to download several different apps for things like antivirus, VPN, password management, parental controls, identity theft insurance, and more. I can get it all in one place for one affordable price. You might already have one or two of these tools, but not having Aura is like locking the front door, but leaving the back door wide open. Aura is always on, doing the hard work so that I can focus on other things like building this YouTube channel or whatever else that I want to deal with instead of protecting my own personal privacy. I value my privacy and I value yours. You can go to aura.com/sawtooth-tactical to get your own 2-week free trial. I'll have a link down below in the description. Now, that is not to say that there aren't new guns that I do want. I really do want to start a Mark 18 build. I've been talking about that for a long time. I don't have a 10.3-inch 5.56. I don't have a quad rail gun. And I just think Mark 18s are freaking awesome. And so I want to build a Mark 18. And especially after building this gun, I really want to build premium ARs from this point on. So I'm going to use a DD, Daniel Defense, Mark 18 upper. Probably not a true clone correct Mark 18, as I want to have an ambi lower on it. Maybe I'll use the Daniel Defense ambi lower because they do have an ambi lower now. But honestly, I'm thinking of the Griffin Armament Mark II lower because it has the exact same controls as the ADM UIC lower, but it's about half the price. And it looks closer to mil spec, so I think that it would look more Mark 18-ish, if that makes any sense. I also really want a crank. I only own one AK, and Meridian Defense apparently is coming out with a crank. It looks amazing. Palmetto State Armory is coming out with a 5.56 crank, which might make more sense, honestly, considering how hard it is to get 5.45 by 39 these days. Even 7.62 by 39 is harder to get and a lot more expensive than it used to be. But we're going to get to ammo. Besides those two, there's pistols that I really want. I want to get a staccato. I love my Prodigy, especially with the upgrades, but I would love to get a staccato. I'd love to get even nicer 2011s, but that's a lot of money to spend all at once, whereas with a build, I can buy it piece by piece. I really want to get a CZ Shadow 2. I'd love to get a Beretta 92 of some kind. Probably the XI, the single action only one. Those look sweet. I've always wanted a SIG P226. Again, probably the single action only Legion. There's a lot of guns I would love to get. But I'm not as focused on getting new guns this year. For one thing that I am really focused on is I want to suppress all my guns. So right now I have an OCL Polonium K currently in ATF jail waiting for approval. That will go on my 5.56 guns. I'm going to get Silencer Co. ASR muzzle devices on all my 5.56 guns because that's what I pinned and welded on my 14.5. That way I can just QD the same suppressor to all of those 5.56 rifles. Besides that, I really want to get a suppressor for my 9mm subgun. Technically not a subgun, it's a PCC. It is semi-auto. We're going to talk more about this gun too as we go along here. But I'm thinking the Yankee Hill Machine R9. Whip Machine and Tool, which I do have their Dirty 30 on my 300 Blackout. I reached out to them and they did tell me that they were going to send me their Naughty 9 suppressor. It hasn't come through yet, so I'm hoping that's still going to happen. Whip Machine, if you're watching. But if that does, sweet. I can't wait to try it out. Now, instead of new guns, like I said, I want to suppress everything this year. But also, I feel like it's the year to upgrade the current guns I have that maybe have been a little bit neglected. Now, for the most part, I'm pretty good at kitting out my guns when I get them. I mean, this one, besides waiting on the suppressor, is absolutely perfectly the way that I want it. But I've been doing a lot of thinking lately. My 300 Blackout, this is my home defense gun. I built it specifically for that. And it's perfect for that. It's short, maneuverable, suppressed, so it won't blow my ears out if I don't have time to put hearing protection on. It's got a light. It's got an optic with shake awake, a big clear window, a circle dot reticle like an EOTech has. This is the Holosun 512C. It's SBR'd, so I can run a stock. It's got a Geisley trigger, radiance, safety, charging handle, all of the usual things that I like on my ARs that I'm used to that make them very user-friendly. But there are a few issues I've found with it as I do pull this out each night and have it at the ready for home defense just in case. For one, I've really gotten used to the Unity riser and this optic height on my new 14.5-inch build. So yesterday, I ordered a Unity riser for this one. Now, instead of the absolute co-witness height that I got for my EOTech here so that it would work with the magnifier with their Omni flip to center mount, I actually got the regular Unity fast mount for this. For one reason, I don't plan to ever run a magnifier on this 300 Blackout. As home defense, there is no reason why I would ever need anything besides 1X in my home, and that's what this gun is built for, short to mid-range. But I do think that a little bit quicker target acquisition by having my optic just slightly higher, a little bit more heads up so I have better, just peripheral vision, all of that, being able to see what's going on. So I did order the riser for this, And this gun hasn't seen any upgrades since I finished it, but that is coming. Besides that is the light. Now there's absolutely nothing wrong with Streamlight, and honestly, this $120 Streamlight is actually brighter than this $600 mod light setup I've got here. But the mod light is more reliable and it's easier to use. The mod button, is way better than this Streamlight pressure switch here. I have had issues with the Streamlight pressure switches, and in fact, sometimes I'll activate it and the light doesn't turn on. And so I actually called Streamlight and they sent me a new switch and tail cap, and it still does that occasionally. That is not a good thing on your home defense gun that you need to be able to rely on. So initially I went to Arasaka. They make an adapter that'll basically turn the back of your Streamlight into like a Surefire tail cap, and then you can use whatever switches you want. You could use that mod button. But instead, I need a good light on my AR9. So what I'm thinking is the Streamlight is going to go on this AR9, which it's a big light for a short gun, but these guns have the same barrel length. And if this one's going to get a suppressor anyway, I think that'll be perfectly fine. And then my home defense gun, the one that I need to rely on, is going to get either a Surefire, maybe the new Surefire Turbo series, maybe an Arasaka Malkoff, maybe another mod light. I love the mod light, but a higher end, nicer light. I do have a tax return coming. Plus something in FDE to match the gun, right? So I think this 300 blackout will be getting a new light setup. It'll be getting an optic riser, and then I think it'll be perfect. And by getting a new light for that gun, this gun will get the light that was on that gun. So then it'll be kitted out better, because this AR9 has been mostly just a fun gun for me, a range toy, but it is SBR'd and it's a good gun. It would be a great home defense gun, so I might as well. I always talk about light optic sling, although for home defense, I think I've decided I don't want a sling. I don't want something in my way that I have to deal with. And so, but this one doesn't have a light, and it needs a light, so I think it's going to get that Streamlight. So far, we've talked about new guns, suppressors, and upgrades for current guns. Let me know in the comments which new guns you want, if you plan to suppress any guns or SBR them, if you are into the NFA thing. Now that I've gotten a few NFA items, I feel like I'm all in. I'm going to get more. If I build that Mark 18, it will be SBR'd, because why would I run a brace on a Mark 18 when I could put a real stock on it? But let's talk about ammo. So ammo has been something that this last year I actually did a pretty good job of stocking up on. I always used to try to be a little bit ahead of the amount of ammo that I used, but especially with having this YouTube channel, I go out shooting every weekend. At least one of these guns or one other gun that I'm reviewing or something, I'm out shooting every weekend for a video. And so I go through quite a bit of ammo. And so it's always been hard to be stocked up on it. But at this point, this entire thing is full of 55 grain 5.56, and that's just the 55 grain. Besides that, I've got boxes of 62 grain green tips. I mean, I've got tons of 5.56 now, 223. I've also got good like defensive 5.56 magazines loaded up, and that is key. Empty magazines are pretty much not even good for paperweights. Load your magazines, have them ready. And readiness is something we're going to talk about too. But ammo is a big part of that. We've seen in the last few years times where ammo became pretty scarce, and especially times where it got very expensive. And it is supposed to get expensive, more expensive in 2024. But it hasn't really yet. So, I mean, ammo is a lot more expensive than it used to be. But it hasn't gone up significantly in 2024 yet. So I would say buy ammo while you can. I've got another big ammo can full of 7.62 by 39, which that's a hard one because I got that at a good price, and it's hard to find 7.62 by 39 that's cheap anymore or even available. So it makes it, unless you have a lot, it's hard to justify going out and shooting and training, which we're about to talk about as well. You need to be able to shoot and train. Shooting is a perishable skill. So you need lots of ammo in order to keep your skills up. But also, if ammo gets expensive and hard to get, you're going to be really happy if you're sitting on a stockpile. I'm about to order a bunch more 9mm because that's been the hardest one for me to keep in stock because I'm constantly shooting 9mm. It's really easy to go through a couple hundred rounds of that in a range day. 300 blackout. I finally got a pretty good stock of subsonic, which now that I've got a suppressor, I enjoy shooting subsonic more than supersonic. Still got some supers, but I'm mostly trying to keep stock of subs now just because they're more fun to shoot with a can. But let me know which ammo calibers you are trying to stock up on in the comments. Now, one thing that I want to talk about and that I want to try to focus on this year that admittedly I've never been very good about is training. And I know that a lot of people talk about this, but it is very important. And as much as I just said, I go shooting every weekend, and I do. And because of that, I have gotten a lot better at shooting than I used to be. Although one problem that I have is I'm always shooting different guns. And so sometimes I'll get on a gun I haven't shot in a long time or a new gun I've never shot. And all of a sudden I don't feel like I'm as good as I should be. Like I shoot this gun really well. Rifles, I've got no problem with. Sometimes I'll get on a new pistol or even one of my pistols that I haven't shot in a long time and I kind of feel like I suck with it. So practice, 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 but more than practice is actual training. And there are great training classes. There's a guy that there's a shooting school here in my town. He's got his own private range. He does rifle and pistol classes. And I've talked to him about it, and I've always planned on taking a class, but I never have. I never seem to find the time. Although I make time for other things, I obviously make time to make, YouTube videos. And so instead of just setting up a camera, filming a video, shooting at steel targets on the flat range, I feel like I need to do a better job of actual, real, life training for actual scenarios. And it's something that I have not spent enough time doing and I need to do. Let me know down in the comments if you guys do actual training classes or not, or if at least that you get out and shoot all the time to keep your skills that you do have up. Because if you find yourself in a situation where you need to use a firearm defensively, you're going to fall back to your level of training. You're not going to step up to some, John Wick level that you're not really at in that situation. When you're under stress, you might fumble a reload. You might not rack your slide all the way back. You might not get a good sight picture in the heat of the moment. And so training is very, very important so that those kinds of things are natural and just automatic for you and not something that you have to think about if you ever have to use your firearm for what they're actually intended for. So I'm sure there are other ones, but those are my main firearms goals, my gun goals for 2024. I want to know what yours are. Now, of course, I have the new guns that I want to get. I really want to get an MP5, and I did not mention that at the beginning of the video. But I want to get an MP5 or an MP5 clone, a Zenith or a Century or something, and really kit it out and make it super tactical and just badass. But that's expensive. New guns are expensive. And besides new guns, maybe you're like me where you really do have your bases covered, because do I really need an MP5 if I've got an AR9? I don't need it. I just want it because it's cool as hell. But my other goals, and I want to know what yours are again, upgrading the guns that I currently have. Making sure that I'm super stocked up on ammo, suppressing everything, and then I want to train for real this year and not just shoot. Let me know what your goals are. I would love to hear from you guys. I always do. I answer every single comment. And make sure you're subscribed. If you enjoyed this video, give me a like, share it with people. And from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.